Before we get into questioning, I'd like to move now to a presentation from CNSC staff as outlined in CMD 15H7 and H7.A. I understand that Dr. Newland will make the presentation. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the Commission. My name is David Newland, and I'm the Acting Director General of the Directorate of Nuclear Cycle and Facilities Regulation. I have with me today Mr. Michael Rinker, Director of the Nuclear Processing Facilities Division, and Senior Project Officer Anne Erdman of the same division. We also have licensing and compliance staff, including subject matter experts to help answer any questions the Commission may have. We are here to present Commission Member Document CMD 15-H7 for Commission consideration of the renewal of Nordion Canada Inc. or Nordion Class 1B license. Mr. Michael Rinker will now continue with the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. President and members of the Commission. My name is Michael Rinker, and I'm the Director of the Nuclear Processing Facilities Division at the CNSC. The purpose of this presentation is to provide CNSC staff recommendations on a license application from Nordion for the renewal of its nuclear substance processing facility operating license. To support the CNSC staff recommendation, we will present background information on the Nordion facility and its operations, highlights of CNSC regulatory oversight of this facility and the performance of the facility over its licensing term, areas of regulatory focus and other matters of regulatory interest, and finally, we will present the proposed license and license condition handbook, as well as CNSC staff recommendations to the Commission. Nordion Canada Inc., or Nordion, is a health sciences organization providing products used in the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of disease. Nordion has two business units: Gamma Technologies, that provide cobalt-60 sources used in cancer therapy and irradiation technologies, and second, Medical Isotopes, providing radioisotopes used in nuclear medicine. Nordion is a global supplier of these products. Nordion currently possesses a nuclear substance operating license to operate a Class 1B nuclear substance processing facility. Nordion is authorized to import, process, and possess many radioisotopes at their facility. The current license was issued for a 10-year period after a public hearing in 2005. This license expires October 31st, 2015, and Nordion has applied to renew this license. The Nordion facility is located in a business park adjacent to a residential area in the Canada suburb of Ottawa. Cobalt-60 has been processed at this facility since the early 1970s, and the other radioisotopes have been processed since the early 1980s. In its review, CNSC staff considered the license application and all other information submitted to support the application. In addition, CNSC staff assessed Nordion's past performance and its compliance history with the regulatory requirements. In general, Nordion's compliance record over the past 10 years has demonstrated a commitment to safety. The CNSC has a clear and robust regulatory framework in place to ensure the continued safe operation of all nuclear facilities. Regulatory oversight is provided to ensure licensees operate the nuclear facility in a safe manner in compliance with the regulatory requirements of the Nuclear Safety and Control Act and its regulations, as well as license conditions imposed by the Commission. Regular inspections and evaluations verify that licensees are complying with the laws and regulations as well as the conditions of their license. In this way, the CNSC can assure licensees are operating safely and adhering to the regulatory requirements. A licensee such as Nordion is also required to submit to the CNSC annual compliance reports that demonstrate how Nordion complied with regulatory requirements in all safety and control areas. CNSC staff continue assessing Nordion's performance in each of the 14 safety and control areas and reports Nordion's performance annually to the Commission in regulatory oversight reports. I will now pass the presentation to Ann Erdman, the Senior Project Officer who has been responsible for regulatory oversight of the Nordion facility during the complete current license period.
Mr. President and members of the Commission, my name is Ann Erdman, and I am a Senior Project Officer in the Nuclear Processing and Facilities Division. This table shows the number of inspections CNSC staff conducted at Nordion's facility and the number of person days CNSC staff spent on all compliance and licensing activities. CNSC staff spent approximately 1,200 person days of effort over the licensing period and conducted 33 inspections. In this next slide is the number of enforcement actions found during inspections conducted at Nordion. CNSC staff issued 49 enforcement actions. There are 11 open enforcement actions with Nordion at this time, the majority of them resulting from 3 inspections conducted this year in January, February, and June. The majority of the open actions are considered to be in areas where improvements could be realized to improve programs at the facility rather than non-compliances. Nordion has proposed target completion dates for all enforcement actions. CNSC staff have reviewed the dates and agree with them. None of the open enforcement actions are such to pose an unreasonable risk to workers and the public, and none of the enforcement actions that remain open are an impediment to relicensing Nordion. Nordion's performance in all safety and control areas during the licensing period has remained satisfactory to fully satisfactory. Nordion has effectively implemented and maintained all of their safety and control programs, which has resulted in nuclear energy workers at the facility and members of the public receiving radiation doses well below regulatory dose limits. Radiological releases were also well below regulatory limits. During the license period, there were a number of incidences in which exposures exceeding the dose limit of 1 millisievert per year were recorded on dosimeters worn by contractors working at Nordion. In response to the elevated dosimeter results, the licensee, Nordion, investigated and determined that in all cases, the majority of the dose recorded on the dosimeters was non-personal, and that no contractor worker personally received a dose of radiation in excess of the regulatory dose limit. In 2 of these instances, the licensee did not file a dose change request to correct the information in the National Dose Registry. As further described in the CMD, and to ensure transparency, these dosimeter results have been included in the dose statistics presented in staff CMD that you have. The licensee has reviewed the manner in which contractor dosimetry is managed and has made improvements to their program. CNSC staff are satisfied that doses to workers, including contractors, are below regulatory limits. CNSC staff conclude that Nordion will continue to make adequate provision for the protection of the environment, workers, and the public. This table presents Nordion's performance in all 14 safety and control areas over the licensing period. Overall, the safety and control area ratings have been satisfactory. Since 2011, fully satisfactory ratings have been given in the areas of conventional health and safety, environmental protection, and security. The fully satisfactory rating for environmental protection is largely attributed to Nordion's continued effective management of its environmental protection program. For conventional health and safety, the rating was raised in 2011 due to Nordion's continued excellent implementation of its health and safety program and low number of lost time incidents. This table also shows that since 2012, Nordion has received a fully satisfactory rating in the area of security. CNSC staff observed Nordion continuing to improve and enhance their security program, and its compliance history has been excellent in this area. Nordion has implemented and maintained an effective radiation protection program as required by the radiation protection regulations. The majority of workers at Nordion have been designated as nuclear energy workers, NEWs, in accordance with the radiation protection regulations. Radiation exposures are monitored to ensure compliance with the CNSC's regulatory dose limits and with keeping radiation doses as low as reasonably achievable. Throughout the current licensing period, no nuclear energy workers' radiation exposure exceeded the CNSC's regulatory dose limits. The maximum effective dose received by a worker in the current licensing period was 7.8 millisieverts, or approximately 16% of the regulatory limit of 50 millisieverts in a one-year dosimetry period. CNSC staff are satisfied that Nordion's doses to workers are being controlled well below the regulatory limits and are maintained as low as reasonably achievable. The information on this slide is for a member of the public outside of the facility. Nordion's environmental releases have resulted in low doses to the public over the license period. Using Nordion's emissions, the maximum calculated dose of 0.041 millisieverts occurred in 2007, and values have decreased to 0.01 millisieverts 2014. The trends reflect differences in production, additional monitoring of xenon gases commencing in 2007, plus that Nordion has discontinued its carbon-14 production. Based on the review of dose data, CNSC staff are satisfied that Nordion is adequately controlling radiation doses to members of the public to levels well below regulatory limits. CNSC staff have rated the conventional health and safety SCA at Nordion as fully satisfactory since 2011, based on the effective implementation of its conventional health and safety program. In 2013, Nordion was the gold winner in the manufacturing category for Canada's Safest Employers Award. CNSC staff lowered the rating in 2014 to satisfactory, as there were lost time incidents that were related to back injuries. Nordion acknowledged a need to improve in this area and have planned and are carrying out additional initiatives on back safety. CNSC staff find the actions taken by Nordion to be acceptable. During the licensing period, Nordion continued to demonstrate its ability to keep workers safe from occupational injuries. Nordion's releases to the environment continue to be effectively controlled and are consistently well below the release limits prescribed in the operating license. Nordion monitors groundwater, takes soil samples, and also measures gamma exposures around the facility. All results indicate that Nordion continues to protect the public and the environment. There are environmental release limits in Nordion's license that ensure the public and environment are protected. These limits are calculated derived limits, or DRLs, that reflect the total releases from each individual isotope that ensure the public dose of 1 millisievert per year is not exceeded. Nordion is revising its DRLs to align with an updated standard from the Canadian Standards Association. This document is in its final stages of review. The revised DRLs for atmospheric emissions will include the 3 additional isotopes, xenon-135, carbon-14, and xenon-135M, that Nordion started to monitor during the licensing period. Nordion continues to monitor all liquid release from the facility. This slide table shows the radioisotopes monitored and released from the facility compared to the license limits. All releases are a small fraction, less than 0.01% of the license limits. The CNSC staff conclude that liquid effluent from the facility continues to be effectively managed. Nordion continues to monitor all emissions to the air from the facility. This slide shows Nordion's monitoring results compared again to the license limits. In 2007, Nordion began monitoring 3 additional parameters: carbon-14 gas, xenon-135, and xenon-135M. As Nordion's environmental releases are minimal, they resulted in very low doses to the public over the license period. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, the calculated annual dose to the public from all releases of radionuclides from the facility over the past 10 years is 0.041 millisieverts in 2007, well below the public dose limit of 1 millisievert per year. Note that the reduction of xenon emissions in 2010 in this slide. This was when the reactor at Chalk River was shut down and the production and supply of radioisotopes was impacted. Over the next licensing period, there are 2 areas of regulatory focus. As part of CNSC's independent environmental monitoring program, CNSC staff will be carrying out monitoring in 2016 around Nordion's facility. Samples will include air, soil, and vegetation. The results of this program will be made publicly available on the CNSC website. Another area of focus will be Nordion's implementation of Canadian Standards Association, CSA standards, and CNSC regulatory documents, RegDocs. This table identifies the various documents that Nordion will be implementing during this next licensing period. Nordion was requested to form a gap analysis of their various documents against their current programs and identify dates to implement the changes. The license condition handbook that is proposed with the license include the implementation dates that Nordion has proposed. Although Nordion has some gaps in their programs compared to these published standards and regulatory documents, Nordion's current programs continue to be satisfactory to protect the public and the environment. The publication of standards and regulatory documents are to clarify CNSC requirements as part of ongoing improvements. Let us move now to other areas of regulatory interest. Aboriginal groups previously expressing interest in being kept informed of CNSC licensed activities occurring in traditional territories were sent letters in 2015 in January, providing them with information regarding the license renewal application, the opportunity to apply for participant funding, and details regarding the Commission's public hearing. No groups applied for funding or expressed an interest in participating in the license renewal hearing. Nordion is in good standing with respect to the cost recovery fees regulations requirements. And Nordion's public information and disclosure program meets all requirements and intentions outlined in the CNSC RDGD 99.3 document, Public Information and Disclosure. CNSC staff has observed that Nordion has demonstrated a commitment to establish an atmosphere of openness and transparency regarding the health and safety of the public and the environment as it relates to its licensed activities. A key area of Nordion's business is manufacturing risk-significant radioactive sealed sources and exporting them globally. Nordion must obtain a separate export license issued by a CNSC designated officer to export a source such as this and report to the CNSC after the source has been exported. From 2010 through 2014, repeat nonconformances were identified where Nordion failed to provide this post-shipment verification within the required time frame. In September 2014, Nordion was issued an administrative monetary penalty for failing to comply with a condition of an export license in relation to the submission of the post-shipment verifications. Nordion paid the penalty in 9 days, and there have been no nonconformances of this nature since the issuance of the administrative monetary penalty. As part of Nordion's corrective actions to address the repeat nonconformances, Nordion commissioned a capital project to develop an IT solution to utilize their existing corporate network to pull required data and automate as much of the prior and post-shipment notification process as is possible to reduce the risk of human error to near zero. Nordion consulted CNSC staff during the project, and staff, CNSC, is currently assisting Nordion during the final testing phase. Full implementation of this corrective action is to occur September the 9th. CNSC staff is satisfied with the proposed corrective action and will continue to monitor Nordion to ensure future compliance with their export license conditions. As part of this renewal, Nordion has requested an update to their financial guarantee. Nordion currently has a standby letter of credit for $15,400,000. The Commission accepted this guarantee in 2006. Nordion continues to maintain the letter of credit, which will remain valid until the revised financial guarantee is put in place. Recently, Nordion has provided and updated the revised cost estimate and decommissioning strategy. It was reviewed by CNSC staff, and the estimated cost to decommission the facility has increased to over $45 million. Nordion has proposed to fund the financial guarantee in the form of a letter of credit for approximately $45 million. That includes $12 million to put it into a safe state of closure, and a second financial instrument in the form of a surety bond for $20 million. CNSC staff have reviewed the financial instruments and conclude both the letter of credit and surety bond meet the applicable regulatory requirements under the NSCA. Regarding the proposed license, CNSC staff is proposing a license that includes standard license conditions handbook that make reference to licensee programs, compliance verification criteria, such as specific CNSC regulatory documents, CSA standards, and recommendations and guidance. Before moving on with the presentation, please note a correction to the draft license. The draft license requires an additional license condition. License condition 14.1 should read, "The licensee shall implement and maintain a safeguards program." Therefore, license condition 14.1, found in the proposed draft license attached to the CMD, becomes license condition 15.1. Regarding the license length, CNSC staff is proposing that the Commission renew Nordion's license with the same 10-year license period expiring October 31, 2025. CNSC staff have considered Nordion's request for a longer-term license, longer than 10 years, in the context of their compliance performance relative to other licensees. While Nordion's compliance history has been good over the current license period, their performance has been similar to other strong performing licensees, also having 10-year license periods. Another item factoring into CNSC staff's recommendation is that Nordion will also be updating several of their programs as it transitions to the currently published CNSC Reg Docs and CSA standards. Nordion's compliance history, together with the transition to the Reg Docs and standards, is the basis for CNSC staff's recommendation that the Commission issue Nordion a 10-year license. This concludes my portion of the presentation. I will pass the presentation now back to Dr. Newland.
Thank you. Based on the assessment of Nordion's safety performance, CNSC staff conclude that as per Section 24(4) of the Nuclear Safety and Control Act, Nordion is qualified to carry out the activities authorized by the license. In carrying out those licensed activities, Nordion has made and will continue to make adequate provisions for the protection of the environment, the health and safety of persons, and the maintenance of national security and measures required to implement international obligations to which Canada has agreed. CNSC staff recommends, pursuant to Section 24 of the Nuclear Safety and Control Act, the Commission renew the Nuclear Substance Processing Facility Operating License NSPFOL-11A00/2015 for a 10-year period. And pursuant to Section 24 of the Nuclear Safety and Control Act, the Commission accept the revised financial guarantee.